Hey everyone, Michelle here from Scrappy Soul Sister, and it is time for our monthly YouTube sketch hop. So here is the sketch. I actually chose the sketch this month, and I thought this was very cute. I just love all of this, and it's very popular right now. There's Vicky Booten has and other designers have a lot of circular designs like this that you can cut apart, or you can make your own little wedges, which is what I am going to do today. And our theme is Bon Voyage, so travel. And so I still have some European pictures that I'm working on. So I'm going to be doing this one of my husband and I in Venice. And I've already done some of this trip, and I've used the wherever, no, everywhere collection from 49 and Market. This is what I have left. And so this sketch is perfect for using up some of my little bits and pieces. And then I also might try, if I can find one that matches. I do have some Bramble Fox perspective titles that I'm hoping to use. So that is my plan. I'm going to do a white background, some sort of mixed media behind it. And yeah, looking forward to having some fun. All right, so my first step obviously is going to be creating my little pie shapes. And so I'm using this die from 49 and Market, and I'm going to cut cut some pie shapes out of a variety of these papers. I'm also using this lace one that is also 49 in Market that I thought I would use in the design as well. So I have cut out all of these shapes and I am figuring out kind of how I want them. Now I want them to be jagged. I don't care too much about it um, being really circular. It can be just a little bit wonky and kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. And so this is kind of the look I'm going for. And so here are those lace dies as well. So I'm just going to use them every couple of pie shapes. And yeah, so I'm liking how the direction this is taking. And so once I kind of have this kind of planned out, just so that the colors, I don't want any of the same two next to each other. I am going to go ahead and adhere my chunks so they're all one piece. And then I sketched around just lightly with a pencil. And now I'm applying some mixed media. So I'm starting with some Lindy's Magicals. And so the colors I'm using are Flickering Fairy Lights, Gypsy Soul Slate, and Clownfish Coral. And so it is a little bit hard to see here on camera because these colors are pretty light. I'm doing a combination of spraying them, applying water first, and then shaking the powder on top, then spraying again to really get it to activate, and then moving it around with my paintbrush. I also have it in my palette there to the right, these three colors, so I can add them in to certain areas that I feel like I might need a little bit more of color. And yeah, so I think I dry it off and then I'm going to do it again. And so I do this process a few different times. And then I'm also going to uh, do some splatters throughout. But first, I'm going to add a little bit of the clownfish coral, and it's such a pretty color. This is the darkest color I use, and so in general, the background does stay pretty light. And so I'm going to add some white in order to break up some of the pools of color. I'm going to add some of the uh, coral clownfish splatters. And then at the end, I'm going to let it dry. And I'm going to come in with Uncharted Mariner spritz and do some splatters in that. I think that might be what I have going on right here. Yeah. And then that is primarily the liquid part of the mixed media. Now I'm going to come in with a stencil and some dyes. First, I want to get some rub-ons on the page. And so that is what I'm going to do next. Now I did blot off some of the color with my paper towel roll, so I'm just going to add a little bit more where it might still need it. Now, Lindy's does dry pretty light, and so if you want it to be darker, you do need to go in a number of times. I wasn't sure how dark I wanted it. I didn't really want it to compete with my bright oranges and blues. Um, Now I'm wondering, after my everything is said and done, if I should have gone a little bit darker, but I can save that for another layout, and so never fear. So this is the design, the basic design of my layout. I'm going to have my picture and then a window to the left. It kind of reminds me of Venice architecture. I'm putting down a few different rub-ons along the exterior of the circle. I have those florals, those white florals. I was thinking about using those. Those don't end up making it on the layout. But I do use this title, which is Happy Travels, which really worked well, both color-wise and theme-wise. So I think I am just about done with rub-ons at this point. I might add a couple. Oh, I do add that last one. I did it primarily off camera, but it says excursion and has the excursion definition. Now here is, I decided to add a little bit more color. It felt like the background was just too soft. And so I'm using this geotag stencil that is from Pear Tree Cut Files and Prize Ribbon Oxide to get a little bit more blue onto my layout. So I'm going to apply it in a few different places. I'm going to apply water because I really want it to feel a little bit uh, smeared, I guess, really water spotted. And here is just a little stamp I'm using with a Catherine Poole. I believe this is slate gray, and same with the stamp. I just am applying it to some of the wet areas because I really want it to feel kind of blurry. So now I'm going to work on my window. So I have that little row of houses that I'm going to have that you can see through the window, and then I'm going to have a rub-on towards the top. So I have cut out my the back of my window, and I'm applying this hot air balloon. And then I am going to put my window on, and so that is going to sit to the left of my photo. I had one more of the lace pieces, so I'm going to put it towards the bottom so that my title can kind of sit on top of it. Of course, I had a fingerprint of that blueprint sketch on my layout, but it was pretty easy to blot up and hide. And so I have that piece down. Here is my photo. And now it's primarily going to be embellishments. I do have my photo up on a couple pieces of fun foam, and so I'm going to be sure to add my tape runner as well as some liquid adhesive, because sometimes that foam doesn't like to stick. I'm going to have a couple of foam strips behind my photo, between my photo and the window frame, and going to have a cluster a little bit above the window below the window with and the picture with my title, and then up to the right. Now on the sketch, it doesn't, it has a couple of embellishments below the photo, and then a little tiny little strip below the title. So I am adding a couple of embellishment clusters, but I enjoy building clusters, and so whenever I have the opportunity, I'm going to be using more instead of less. And so I'm getting some flowers and some leaves from some of the other 49 and Market color swatch kits because I don't remember if there were any flowers in the Everywhere collection. If there was, I have used them long since. And so I had a flower from, I believe it was Ocean. That's the one that I cut in half and layered underneath our picture. And then I have some three-dimensional flowers just from my stash, the light blue flowers there. And so just kind of taking a look how I want to build my clusters. I am going to add these lavender photo corners to our picture. And then once I get those glued on, now I had 3 out of 4 for the longest time. I was starting to get nervous. I glued them down with the confidence that I would find the 4th one, and thankfully I do, but it was a little nervous there for a while. So I'm trying to have some orange, in all 3 areas, and so I have that tab down below. I have a half circle in an kind of an ivory up on top just to kind of break up that film strip a little bit, trying to decide what type of word strips I want to use. I think I'm going with these, but I do not. And so both of those are going to not make the cut. This butterfly doesn't make the cut. So right now I'm really just auditioning what I like, what I don't like. I have these little X marks the spots, so I'm going to use a few of those. The blue flower or blue leaves that you see, I had in my stash from another project, and so I cut those out with a 49 and Market die. And that 49 and Market paper, I believe, is from Inkwell, and so I thought that it would work well on this layout. I've added that Go See Do rub-on there at the top. Now, true confessions, I have my nails. I just got them a few days ago. It's been a long time since I've had nails this long, and so I'm like struggling to lift some of my rub-ons. So that's where craft knives come in handy. And so I also robbed some orange flowers and orange bits from the Mango Color Swatch collection. And so that's where that orange flower is from. And the little beads that I use in my clusters are from that collection. And so I have that orange flower. Now you see on the blue flowers, they did have a yellow center. I don't have any yellow on this layout at all. And so I just painted them with white gesso on all 3 flowers. And so that's why there's a color difference there. I've added a tag and an X to the right of that flower. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue down that orange flower. I'm going to tuck in some of the blue leaves. It felt as a whole like that was a lot of that color down towards the bottom of the layout. So I'm just going to use a couple of leaves under my main flowers there. And then that orange flower is going to get a center from the Bits and Baubles enamel um, uh, piece or page that comes in this collection. So I still have a few bits and pieces of that left. And so I'm just going to use orange because I don't need any contrast on those flowers. So yeah. Um, so that bottom cluster is pretty close to being finished, other than the word sentiments that I'm going to do towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down my blue leaves down at the top. I'm fine with it being a cluster because I'm going to cover a lot of it, as you can see there. I decide to go with just one flower. And then I add some green leaves from that mango collection, just so, or actually, I think those are from the ocean collection where I had the flowers from initially, uh, just so I would have green in all three clusters. Going to make sure that gets adhered. I use collage medium from Tim Holtz to glue down my dimensional flowers. And then I'm going to add a couple of little orange flowers there. And then that cluster is pretty close to being done. It gets a little X on there as well. It gets the dots in the flowers. And yeah, I don't see the X there yet, so that's still coming. But I've moved on to the cluster at the right, which really is just going to be um, that oval piece that I had in at first. I'm going to use just one or two leaves there under that orange flower. Going to add some green leaves over there as well. And then that X, as you see, is already there on the layout. So the primary thing that I still have left are a couple word sentiments. Now, I had those larger ones out on um, my workspace originally, but I'm going to use some book plates instead, as well as Let's See the World down at the bottom. And then I add a little blue strip there to the right to balance out the film strip that's off to the left. So thank you so much for joining me for this YouTube hop. Check out all the other creators linked in the description. Just so much talent. So you won't go wrong. So here are some close-ups, and thanks for hanging out with me. Bye now.